Hello, my name is Kirby G with Kirby G's Points and Miles. Just want to go over a quick little video talking about what would you do with my points. So first off, I want to talk about a little bit about my travel strategy that I had. Wanted to use the Capital One Duo as my main points getters, getting that nice 3x on dining and grocery from the Saver card, get the 2x on everything else for the Venture card, nice little 2-card combo for most of my spend. Then I was going to use my Delta Reserve and any Sky Miles I acquired there for all my domestic flights to make sure I could travel around the country as cheaply as possible, but still fly with a little bit of a nicer airline. Next, my goal was to apply for the IHG card so I could start racking up some hotel points. I spent a lot of time traveling for work, and most of that travel was done at a Holiday Inn, and so I started to acquire a little bit of IHG points and IHG status. So really topping off that status all the way up to platinum with the IHG card, and as well as getting that 4th night free benefit for wherever I wanted to travel really just made sense for me. And also I had started acquiring some Chase Ultimate Rewards points, so I could use that to either transfer to Hyatt as a backup hotel option if there wasn't a good IHG property in the area, or as well as maybe possibly transferring to an airline as well, maybe mixing that in with my Capital One points as well. And the main goal was to go back to Europe and visit as many countries as possible. So originally was in Europe back in November, and I was able to go to both Italy and Greece, spend about 10 days there. But I also want to visit as many countries as possible as quickly as possible, and to do that with the amount of PTO that I currently have, really just wanted to fly over to Europe, spend a day or two at a couple different countries, maybe like 2 or 3, and then maybe end off, at a nice, longer stay in maybe a larger country like England or maybe something like Germany. So I think it's important that whenever you want to use your points and miles for a large redemption, you have to take stock of how many points do I have and what points do I need to acquire. So I had about 140,000 Capital One miles, had about 110,000 Delta Sky miles, about 60,000 IHG miles, which I was hoping to get a lot more with a credit card, but maybe that's something that I can also purchase as well whenever there is a bonus where you can get a 100% bonus. And I also had 130,000 Chase points as well. Mainly thinking of using for Hyatt, maybe at some nicer hotels, but also if a certain transfer partner didn't work with Capital One that worked with Chase, I can use some of those miles for my flights as well. So as you can see here, I have a decent amount of points, but I think, for some people who are in their credit card game a lot more than me, they might have millions of points. And so I really have to work with the points that I have, with my naturally low spend, for compared to most people, I would say. I really have to be cognizant of really stretching the value of all of these points. That's really what I wanted to do with this trip that I was in the beginning stages of planning. So unfortunately, every plan, there are little hiccups every once in a while. And sometimes, it might be a little bit of a happy accident. So I actually got a promotion at work, so I got a pretty nice pay raise, got shipped across the country from Ohio to California. So awesome opportunity, Southern California, one of the nicest places in America. It's quite expensive, so the spend has maybe gone up a little bit higher than I would have hoped, but that's all right. Also had to take into consideration PTO. I'm the kind of person that when I start in a position, I don't really want to take a lot of PTO right away. I want to get off on a good foot with my boss right away, and while I had worked with her in the past, I really wanted to show myself as, a high achiever, hard worker. I knew if I did a lot of that at the beginning, kind of set the tone, it would set me up success for the future. And so that kind of, hindered my plans a little bit of taking a more larger trip around November, December time. I also have a new airport now. I was living right near Cleveland, Ohio, so used to Cleveland Airport, and now I am, not too far from LAX. And while I'll personally be using SNA or John Wayne Orange County Airport, fly out of there for more domestic trips when possible, whenever I fly internationally, having LAX really is really nice. Not having to take a repositioning flight within America, driving up there, parking my car at one of the parking ramps, taking a bus over to the airport, and bada bing, bada boom. Compare that to Cleveland, where I'd have to fly basically to Atlanta or to JFK, maybe Charlotte, to get over to Europe is, not as ideal. Maybe it can save me some of those Delta miles as well. Also, as I said, denied for the IHG card. I did apply at 524. Wanted to risk it for the biscuit. I knew I didn't have a great opportunity, but like you said, that card would have worked for me perfect at the time. Unfortunately, I have to wait a little bit longer. So this all really made me to reassess what I'll be doing with my credit card, not just credit card journey, but also my travel journey as well. So, moving over to California has its pros and cons, but also might be a blessing in disguise. I said LAX as my international airport, comparing that to Cleveland, there's a lot more opportunities there to take one less flight. And I think people forget how grueling a travel day can really be and how much better a trip can start off if you have a good travel day. Also, has direct flights to Asia. And I really do want to visit every continent as soon as possible, visit as many countries as possible, and visit every state as soon as possible. So to be able to knock Asia off the list, see a few countries, maybe in Southeast Asia, is something that really, wasn't something I thought about. I thought that was more of a couple years down the line. But now that I'm here, and I'll be here for a couple of years, I don't want to be in California long term, but if I am, I may as well fly west. This photo here looking at all of the flights that you can get directly from LAX. Unfortunately, I would love to visit Thailand, and they don't have a direct flight to Bangkok for some reason, which absolutely confused me. I have a lot of options, especially going west, going east, going south, even going north to Alaska. There are opportunities there. But how do I make that decision of where to travel? Well, LAX being my new airport might be a blessing in disguise, definitely also adds some new difficulties. The whole point of this trip was that I wanted to fly to Europe, and now I'm a lot farther from Europe. I went from the Eastern time zone to the Pacific Standard time zone, and there's a difference. And having that extra 3-4 hours of travel time on the flight isn't the worst thing in the world. It's definitely something I need to consider. Also, flying from LAX, if I want to fly to Asia now, those flights tend to be a little bit more costly points-wise, depending on where you're flying and what airline you're flying. They can also be a lot harder to get. While there are different sites like Seats.aero or Points.aero that can help you find these flights, it's something you gotta take some time to do. And it's something I need to teach myself here. And as I'm growing and I'm learning in this whole process here, it's gonna be a lot harder. But that's kind of what makes the game fun. I also had to take into account how much PTO I can really take. As I said, now that I'm in this new position, I don't want to take as much PTO as I originally planned for this year, but we'll see how these first few months kick off. I do already have trips planned for July, having a long weekend, and also in the month of August, both surrounding my best friend's wedding, but I also have some other things that might possibly come up in the future as well. So if I know there are some trips that I'll be taking in the future that are kind of set in stone, do I really want to plan another large trip? The answer might be yes, but we'll see. It's also a lot harder to get friends to go with me, as I am moving out to California with not as many close friends in the area. I do have a couple work friends from when I was here last time, but a lot harder to drag someone with you across the world when you have to drag them across the country first. And also, I still do not have a lot of hotel points. It's not something that I definitely need to have. I don't mind paying for a hotel, but for something, a little bit longer of a trip, it would be nice to acquire some more hotel points as well. So what is my new travel plan for the rest of the year and looking into the beginning of 2026? So I have a long weekend planned in July. That's been planned. It's booked, all set to go. Also have an August long weekend trip, again, planned, booked, ready to go. Also have another October long weekend trip, which is planned, not necessarily booked yet. I have to look into what I actually need to do to book. Is for another friend's wedding, and so I have to kind of figure out what that'll look like. I also know I'll have a Christmas trip planned back home to Wisconsin at the end of the year. Luckily, my company does have the last week of the year off, and so PTO-wise, this might only take 1 or 2 days to maybe fly out a little bit earlier, but definitely planned. I'm not going to book that for another few months just because it's a little early still. I'm looking at another Caribbean trip. Originally wanted that to be this year, but from what I'm looking at right now, it's going to be pushed out to February through April of 2026. I do have someone that is very interested in going with me. Actually, 2 people who really want to go, and so I really had to look at, okay, how can we line up all 3 of our schedules? I can find some nice award availability hotel-wise, and this might be where I use my Delta Reserves Companion Pass instead of using all-on points, which would help break up that cost for us. This does mean that my trip to Asia that I was considering probably is going to fall between May and June of 2026. And to be honest, I probably should start looking at booking that right now. Just how far in advance sometimes you need to book these things. But we'll see how things go. We'll see how flexible I can be, and we'll see what the future holds. And something I didn't really talk about yet, but a trip to Vegas. It's only a 4-hour drive away. Like I've said in some previous videos, I do enjoy the occasional gambling, and I've only been to Vegas one other time before. Now that I'm a little bit more established in my career, have a little bit more disposable income, it might be time to go back. When I look at all of the trips that I have planned and ideas I have, this does remind me that the last 2 years I've taken a trip in November that was kind of not last minute, but wasn't really thought of until August and wasn't booked until September. So am I going to do it again? I don't know. I'll definitely make a video about it though. So what do I need to do to execute these travel plans? For my October trip, just need to find a hotel. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive. If there's a nice Hyatt hotel, transfer some points over, that'd be great. But for this trip specifically, the only real cost for me will be the hotel. So I'm not too concerned about that. For my Christmas trip, I'll look at flights within the next couple of months to see, when is the best time to buy. We'll probably use some Delta Sky Miles if I can find that nice effective way home. So for my trip back to the Caribbean, I really want to acquire the IHG card because I think 4 nights in the Caribbean is kind of the perfect amount of time, and there are some really, really nice properties, that can give you a pretty decent points cents per point within the IHG ecosystem. And like I said previously, I most likely use my Delta Reserve Companion Pass for this trip, and so while the flight itself will be paid with cash, and really only be split in half for my personal cost anyway. For the trip to Asia that I want to take, I really need to figure out, okay, where am I flying? And I need to start looking now. I don't need to necessarily have everything planned out, but let's see, where am I flying to, where am I flying from, and just get that booked. The rest of the pieces will fall into place. That's that first step I need to take. And then for this trip to November, I really need to do that Asia trip step first if I'm really serious about going. How many points am I going to have left after this, trip in October, this Christmas trip that I'm planning, trip to the Caribbean? How many points am I going to have left over in which ecosystems? And if I have something that I can make work and I find a deal, pull the trigger. Also, any other travel that might pop up, who knows what plans are made to be thrown in the fire. So if an awesome opportunity comes up, have a blast and do this all over again. And oh yeah, most importantly, acquire some more points. Right now, like I said, I'm looking to acquire some more IHG points, but if it makes more sense for me to buy IHG points on a sale, I can do that. If another amazing card comes out of nowhere that's brand new and has an awesome sign-up bonus, maybe I take that for a spin. I think the most important thing about the credit card game is that you need to be flexible at any time. You never know when a credit card is going to change, when a points value will get devalued. And as you saw previously, I don't have a ton of points. I think I have a decent amount, but I don't want to have any more points than I really do right now because who knows when they become worthless. So finally, what are my plans to get points? Hilton Grand Vacations has offered me many times 100,000 Hilton points and for sit through one of their timeshare presentations. And now that I'm not that far from Vegas, maybe my Vegas trip that I want to do will be a Hilton Grand Vacations trip. I'll sit through a boring timeshare presentation and hopefully don't get roped into buying it. I also, like I said, want to acquire hotel gift cards. Even after the IHG card, the next card I really want to get is the Hilton Surpass. Right now it does have a really nice offer of waiving the annual fee for the first year. And while the 130,000 points is just a base offer points-wise, it's always nice not having to pay an annual fee. Next is Rakuten. I don't spend a lot of money online, but when I do, I may as well use Rakuten. And then on top of that, just stacking my points wherever possible. If a certain Amex offer comes up for extra Sky Miles to spend on gas like there is right now, do that. If there's anything I can do when booking a hotel, if I want to pay cash, book it through Gondola or Rove, get that extra cash back. Always want to make sure that every purchase I make, especially if my large purchases, are made intentionally and done to maximize my points. So if we go back to what my points balances were at the beginning of this presentation, what would you do with my points balances? If you were me, where do you want to take a vacation and how would you plan it out with the points that you have? I'm really interested to see what other people would do in my situation at their home airports. Or if you want to plan a vacation for me and make it a little bit easier, put it in the comments and I'll take it from you. So as I come to the end of this video, just want to thank you all for getting this far. If you please could like, comment, subscribe on my hunt to 100 subscribers. Would love to hit that by the end of the year. And don't forget, have a great rest of your day.